The following episode of We Making It is part of a mini-series highlighting the body business stories of dance artist professionals who are creative partners in the Sydney L. Mosley Dances collective. SLM Dances is a New York City-based dance theater collective that works in communities to organize for gender and racial justice through experimental dance performance. This fall, SLM Dances is fundraising to build our collective power and continue to make this work possible. Hashtag we making it. In these body business stories, we speak candidly about our budgets and bank accounts while sustaining a commitment to impacting our communities with our gifts as artists. Please visit SLM Dance's website to learn more about how you can play a part in reaching our fundraising goal of $10,000 by December 31st, 2019. Again, that's SLMDANCES.com. You want to know what else you can do? Well, let me tell you. Share this episode using the hashtag SLMDBodyBiz, that's biz with a Z, 10K, and help us share our body business stories with your community. Now, let's get back to the show.
Struggling away, juggling the days. You know we got it made. When we making it, we making it, we making it, we making it.
And welcome back to another episode of We Making It. Ooh, this is a weekly conversation with New York-based artists around what they are making and how they are maintaining adequate water levels in the process. Yes. So what happened last night? I don't remember because October has been a crazy month. However, I am still reading Sula by Toni Morrison. If you have not read Sula, I highly recommend it. We are on our 5th episode with an SLM partnership. We're still talking about money. How you making this stuff happen? What is the real tea with numbers? We ain't playing no games. And so, special guest, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Brittany Grier, otherwise known as Britt Ann.
Britt is in the building. Okay, so Britt and I met. So, disclaimer, Britt and I met before SLM. We used to dance for Joya. Shout out to MOPDC. And through that, we have built a rapport.
Yes.
Around dancing together in various capacities. Okay, Britt, so you know how this goes. In all my other episodes, I say, what are you making? But since we're talking about money, how are you making all of these things happen?
So I make money by having different hats. I work for the Department of Education 3 days a week. And then out of the remainder of the time during the week, I am a director. Well, that's a new position that I'm going to be starting. And then I'm in rehearsals getting paid to be here.
Okay. So let's get right into it. So what do you do for the Department of Education?
So for the Department of Education, it's really interesting because, I forgot to mention that I also work as a community actionist with Gibney.
Oh, I do too.
Yes.
Shout out to Gibney.
Shout out to Gibney. So I work in the schools originally as a paraprofessional, and depending on the gig, I might go in as a teaching artist or a community actionist and facilitate the conversations that are happening around having healthy and unhealthy abusive relationships.
Okay, so we got a directorship that hasn't started yet, so we won't count that.
Okay.
But we got a paraprofessional, and we got a community actionist, and then did I forget a job?
Sometimes I go into the schools as a teaching artist, but usually that comes when someone says, hey, I thought of you, and I'm not always prepared to receive the news, but when it happens, I'm very excited, and I have to shift my schedule around to see if I could do it or not.
Okay, cool. So Britt, let's talk numbers. So what are your monthly expenses on average? Numbers. We need numbers.
Okay. Honestly, very blessed on numbers. I can say about 500 to 600.
Are your expenses consistent? We're talking food, rent, MTA, health insurance, the occasional slice of pizza.
Yeah, I would say so. So if I break that down, $200 is going towards my grandparents just to maintain the house that we live in. So even though it's not like a crazy amount of money, as people I know have to pay in New York. Yes. It's still money that goes towards the house and taking care of that as an entry point to other bills. Because when you own a home, you got to pay a water bill, you got to pay the property tax, and then also renovating the space. And I haven't quite gotten there yet, but this is my grandfather's entry point into taking care of the household. And then I have a phone bill. So that's what, $100 because I have a plan with my sister. So that's very helpful. I pay about $100 for groceries, maybe $150 if I feel fancy.
Okay, so we up to $350.
So we up to $350.
What's the other $50? Well, you said $500, so that's another $150.
Yeah, that usually goes with MTA.
Makes sense.
And then also if there's any material that I need in terms of giving in the classroom, or just if I'm able to help someone out, then I will.
Okay, cool, great. Yes, Britt offered to give me an Uber once, y'all. Ooh, and y'all, she brought me a kombucha to rehearsal. Won't they do it? He do it. She do it. Won't somebody do it for you when you need it?
That's all right.
Okay, so we got $500 in expenses. Disclaimer: your parents own your home. Who owns your home?
So my grandparents own the house right now, and then when a long time away from now, God willing, when they die, then it will be 1/3 of the house being owned by my mother and her two brothers. And then from there, I don't even know, honestly, the extent of my sister and I receiving the house. And so, yeah, right now it's interesting because on papers, it is my grandparents, but I'm learning all of our responsibilities in terms of taking care of it, so that we can sustain living in it.
Right. And so, and I brought that up just to create some clarity around the larger picture of expenses being $500, because honey, we all know that $500 in expenses, baby, that's a talk about a trick or a treat, baby. That is a treat.
It is. And I will be vulnerable and say that I've had the very real experience of paying more than that when I moved out my house last year. I stayed in the Bronx for 9 months, and I was definitely paying way more. I was paying $600 to $750, and then on top of that.
On top of that, because the $650 or the $700 was rent.
That was just rent. So I did get a reality check, which I'm very grateful for, because while it is a blessing for me to pay the amount that I do, I definitely do not take for granted that folks have real hardships that they're struggling with. And so I'm very blessed to have the space, to have the time to get myself together more financially. But it's very interesting because it's one thing to struggle and to create for yourself, and it's another thing to be in a space and really not know the value of the space that you're in, or know the value of what it is that you have. And I feel like as I've gotten older, I'm definitely learning that more and more.
The value of the space that you're in, and what was the first part that you said before that?
The value of what it is that I hold.
Okay. I think that's a good segue to, okay, you got $500 in expenses. That's what you have. What do you make? On average, monthly?
I make about, I would say 1,000, maybe 1,200 about.
So you're the first person. You're the first person, because if you go back to listen to Bianca's episode, Bianca comes pretty close to you in like having, like making more than your expenses. Mm-hmm. But even if we're putting you in Bianca, you're making like double your expenses. How, honey, I'm baffled. I have not seen such numbers since my adulthood. How does this even, like, tell me more? What does this look like? What does this feel like?
So I should also say that just because I make that doesn't mean that it is what I have, because I've had to learn how to manage my money. And that's why I say knowing the value of what it is that you have, so that you know how to move with what it is that's in front of you. So I didn't understand, definitely when I was younger, even though, like, you know, I wanted to work to have my own, but even more so as an adult, I find it to be important for me to manage, to even build what I'm able to sustain in right now. Like, the reason I live in a house is because I had responsible grandparents that was probably saving like their nickels, pennies, and dimes for us to be in the house that we're in today.
So now that you are in a place where you are, so yeah, again, so now that you're making more than what you need, what does that managing system look like?
So one of the ways in which I manage, definitely learned from last year and moving out, was just budgeting more, setting up boundaries. I have work boundaries. So y'all, for the Department of Education, if you are a sub-para professional, you go to places where they need you, and that is within the tri-state area. So sometimes I was needed in the Bronx, and I would go to the Bronx. And now I've just been more patient and said, I am not spending $275 to travel for more than an hour to go to a place. And so I've been working in my neighborhood. I've been looking at the zip code and deciding if I could walk to work, which has been the case. And so that's been very helpful to me. So that's been one of the ways in which I've been operating. If I don't need to spend it, then I won't. And I think a big part of that is delegation, for sure. If I can get a ride because my grandfather has a car, my mother has a car, I'm hopping in the car.
Okay, so then, yeah, like, where is the extra money going is where I'm at, if you don't mind asking, if you don't mind.
Which extra money? The money I'm saving?
Well, yeah, because you hadn't said that you had a savings yet. So all we know at this point is that you have $500. That $500 includes monthly expenses outside of savings. If you do the math that you just gave, even if you make $1,000 a month, you're pocketing an extra $500 every month. Where's that going?
Debt.
So you have, this would be a great point to mention. Mm-hmm. Britt, how much student loans do you have?
Ooh, child. So I think also beyond student loans as well, like when I was younger, a credit card was taken out in my name. Because bless that family member's heart, they thought that they were going to be helping me with credit, and in actuality, it just put me in more debt.
Right.
So yeah, it's paying that back. I have not fully paid my student loans yet. I don't even have a number to give, but I know that it is, it's a lot.
I'm gonna need you and Joan to pick up a computer and look at your damn finances. How do you not know how much you owe? Britt.
Right. No, you're right.
Again, because it's the same thing I was saying with Bianca. Take stock. You may think you owe 60 and you actually owe 100. You may think you owe 60 and you only owe 18.
Well, so I know certain things off the back that I owe, but in total, I have not sat down in a while to look at it.
You and Joan, I'm gonna give y'all 5-minute finance. Yes. I'm gonna need y'all to just take 5 minutes.
Yes, it's gonna happen. It is happening
again. And like I said, I only bring this up because I'm thinking about Bianca's episode around the starving artist. I'm also thinking about this like larger theme I've come up with being around artists, around like there's a lack of resources, and I have to work really hard to have my own, whatever my own looks like. But sometimes, I know I can speak for myself, I didn't even know what I was working for. And so I was out there again putting a whole lot of resources in a whole lot of pots when I couldn't even take account for the resources that I actually needed. Also, like, loan forgiveness programs are a thing. And so I say that to say, like, how can we all be more efficient? And one way to be efficient is to know, again, this is how much I am spending, this is how much I owe, and this is the plan that then I'm gonna have it to pay back. Which also makes me think, Britt, why don't you put student loans in line with groceries?
So I will say I took a step back from handling my debt when I moved out my house. And so it's
like you deferred them? Like you deferred your loans?
No, like I literally was like in the process of paying them. And so I left it alone when at the time I was prioritizing moving out.
So when you say you left them alone, you just stopped paying them?
Right. Or rather, I was working with a debt consolidation group.
Oh, and so the payment that you needed to make was like forgiven, or you didn't need to pay, like you had made an agreement with them.
Correct.
Okay, cool. Okay,
Yeah.
Cool. Yes,
I do need to check up on those items.
Yes.
To make sure that is handled.
So then this is a good segue too. Okay, so Britt, you have some resources that I know, like my grandma, my nana, shout out to my nana, owns a home, but she would probably be paying off until she has passed. And my great grandmother, if you don't know me personally, I have a very young family, and so my great grandmother did not own a home, or she did, but it got ruined in a hurricane. And so you have a lot of identities, and you have some resources to go with those identities. So first off, how do you identify? And then secondly, what do you feel like those identities have afforded you in terms of privileges?
So I am the granddaughter of a pastor. And so I know you just mentioned that you have your great grandmother who has a home and that she's still paying off?
No, that's my nana.
That's your nana.
Gigi, rest in peace and in power. I love you every day. But yeah, Gigi passed away.
Oh yeah, my condolences.
Yes.
So it's really interesting. There is a twofold story of money when it comes to my family. So my father owned a brownstone that was passed on to him by his mother, who that's my grandmother too, rest in peace and power, the Reverend Patricia Peaches Bunny Grier. She had a brownstone for my family, and we no longer have that anymore because it could not be maintained. And my mother didn't fight for it. So all we have is, not all we have, like that's it, but we have the house in Brooklyn. And I do identify with that loss because I could have owned 2 houses.
Right. And I'm sitting here like baffled at, like, you are a native Brooklynite. So you're how many generations back do you live in Brooklyn? Or does your family come from Brooklyn?
Yeah, my family comes from Brooklyn.
Yeah, but like how many generations back?
5.
And so that's not only is like, first of all, I've never met a person that goes back 5 generations in Brooklyn. And then to meet someone that had enough generational, and would you even say that there was generational wealth?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I recently found out that I went to my Aunt Curlin's funeral, or was it Cousin Carabelle? I'm not sure. But anyway, we went to a family member's funeral, and I found out that I come from a family of entrepreneurs or people that have worked on the railroads, but they have worked like in the train cars. And so like that in itself, like historically knowing that they were creating their own, or they were working in these places, just making their monies and doing what they needed to do and pass that along to the family is
right. I think yes. And like there's one thing to know your family's history, and then there's a whole, and what I'm thinking about is not only do you know your family's history came with ownership of homes and 2 homes within 2 generations of yourself. That is like a resource that so many Black children cannot even think of, and they do have that same history. And so given that you do have that as a resource, like the opportunity to own a home, what have been some barriers within your identity that has maybe kept you from certain financial goals that you had?
Definitely money management in my family, for sure, because I do believe, or I have seen like, oh, well, we got it, so it's fine. Or because we want to afford an experience, then we bypass the responsibilities that we need to tackle. It does get tackled, but sometimes it has been put on the back burner. Or just like my mother didn't fight for that brownstone because she's like, I have a house to live in. And so like that in itself is definitely a privilege, that she is able to afford to make that choice.
Right.
And another barrier is really having these conversations in the first place, because as I've gotten older, the money talks have come up. Like, you know, my mom's like, you know, one day you and your sister are gonna own this. And I'm like, well, own what? Like, I don't understand the value of this home. Not because it has not been good to me, but I was trying to even like start a business in the home. Like, I was like, we got a basement. This Marley could be put on this floor, and I can have a studio, and I can extend that. And so going back to your question, Katie, about the role I play, I do see myself as I do believe a helpful hand. I do see myself as a resource because I have so much. And I also see myself as someone who is still investigating how my family has gotten so much, but the conversations aren't happening around how to sustain it until someone dies.
Yeah, death will put things in perspective,
right.
Won't it?
Until someone dies, or if you know, there's a crisis that happens. And so I want the conversation to be ongoing, so that we can utilize what it is that we have by knowing what it is that we have.
Right. And so that really makes me wonder too, given that home ownership, for example, is like your baseline, and making a little bit more than your expenses is also your baseline. Are there any, first off, it sounds like because these things are your baseline, you view yourself as coming in with a lot of resources. Are there any financial goals that you felt like you couldn't reach because of your identities as a native Brooklynite, as a Black woman, as a 5th generation potential homeowner?
No. To be honest, no. Because the way I was taught was that you utilize what it is that you have. And so even being a young Black girl, like I was told maybe that, oh, no, you're too white. Oh, when you pass Brittany's house, the birds are chirping because she got a backyard. Versus some of my other my friends who could not afford or just didn't live in the same vicinity that I lived in. And so I struggled with that, like, oh, does that mean I'm not deserving of this? And also Blackness, like I gotta be poor. I gotta struggle like that. I mean, I do struggle, but I didn't understand the reference of being Black equated with being poor. Like, nobody talks about Black Wall Street and how there was ownership of businesses that were booming and happening as well. So it's really interesting because my narrative is different, and you just can't marginalize the people of color anyway. People do it, but you can't.
I think there are consequences when you do. I wouldn't say that you can or you can't, or you should or you shouldn't.
Yeah.
And I do, appreciate what you're offering is that with any group, there are multitudes. And what I think you're offering too is that you cannot help your baseline. Like, it is not your fault, nor is it anybody else's fault that you were born and where you were.
I mean, I come from a middle class working family. You know, they ain't just like middle class. No, they worked.
Right. And so, yes, and so wherever you start, that does shape the conversation that you have with money. Now, you could be like Bianca, who is very clear that like where I started is not where I'm about to finish on like a mental level. Or you could be like you and be like, yeah, y'all in a good spot, but if we're not careful, we're gonna lose it all. And so we have to put these things into place so that we can move forward. And again, what I appreciate around that is just taking stock, being aware of like, okay, like you said, these are the resources that I have. They may not be this many resources, but I'm gonna do the best that I can with said resources to allocate them where I want them to be, which is a great segue too. Okay. Because Britt, your breakdown of money was like 200. How much did you make per job? That was a question that I ended up asking.
I mean, it fluctuates, to be honest.
You give me an average month.
Which job?
All three.
All three.
So like, how much do you bring in from SLM per month? Average.
I think 200.
Paraprofessional.
Per professional, about 600.
Britt, you did not do your math right, because honey, that's 800 right there. And you said, oh no, you right, because then you got to come up with another 200.
Right.
Where the 200 coming from?
Yes, my director job that I didn't start yet. But
we ain't counting that because that ain't come yet. We gonna keep a regular month.
Okay. Community actionist and or teaching artist.
So that's about 2 to 4.
Yes.
Okay, so let's drop you down to the 200 that you get from SLM. You only make it $200 a month, but you still got $300 worth of expenses. Who you gonna call? What community you gonna talk to your grandma and be real nice so she gonna make you some macaroni and cheese? You gonna go down the block? You gonna go talk to the other Brittany that stay in Queens? So yeah. But what are you gonna do? 200. That's all you got.
In
4 months.
What? Oh, like what am I gonna do in terms of making more or?
You can't make no more money.
Okay.
You got $200. What are you gonna do to
allocate the rest of the needs?
Right.
I mean, it's wonderful. I know my neighbors. So God bless Miss Warner's heart. She was the first woman who gave me a job at the age of 14. Shout out to you, Miss Warner. She is down the block from me.
Go hit up Miss Warner.
I can go hit up Miss Warner and talk about, what my expenses are and asking her, for a nice plate of food. Of course, I have my own family's house where I can do that as well. I do have the resources, like my mother's church is nearby as well.
And you do have a savings that you could dip into, or no? Because we talked about savings, but.
So I have a savings, and making sure money is in the savings is a whole different other thing. Because you know what? I realized, my mother was a single mother.
Yeah.
And so as I've gotten older, I recognize that she needs help.
Yeah.
And every now and then, money is definitely going towards her.
Yeah.
With little to nothing, and just like reach out to the people that are there for her, be it my grandparents, be it the folks from the church, be it the neighbors, So I would definitely be communicating with my neighbors, and seeing if there's a resource I needed, I can go to them. I could walk across the street to the church.
So to close, Britt, where can the people find you?
Oh, you can find my handle is well_BN, WELL_BANNE. And yeah, I'm working on having a website.
Me too. I gotta find, I gotta figure that
But
out.
you can find me on the SLM Dance website.
As you can find me too. I forget about that all the
You
time.
can find me on 3 other people's website, y'all.
Basically, what Britt is saying is Google her.
Yes. Yes. Or I'm definitely on Instagram. I'm on Facebook as well. On Facebook, Britt Ann, BRITT space ANNE.
So, with that, I want you to make it live. I want you to make it breathe. And for Britt's episode, I think we should make it held. Because we're taking stock of what we hold. And as always, if you ain't taking stock of what you're holding, just make it. That's all we need. Bye.
Bye.
Now, a note from SLM Dances. This episode of We Making It is part of a mini-series highlighting the body business stories of Sydney L. Mosley Dances creative partners. SLM Dances is a New York City-based dance theater collective that works in communities to organize for gender and racial justice through experimental dance performance. In sharing their stories with you, SLM hopes to make plain their needs as dance artists and inspire you and all SLM Dances community members to think and act from a place of abundance, empathy, and urgency. SLM Dances is fundraising to build our power as a collective. Our goal is 10,000 by December 31st, 2019. Please visit SLM Dances website at slmdances.com. That's SLMDANCES.com to join SLM Dances community and become a donor. Keep in touch with SLM Dances fundraising efforts by following us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, all at SLM Dances, and the hashtag SLMD BodyBiz with a Z 10K.